Welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Joseph Bruen, and we continue on with Sci-Fi Week, a very special guest this week, not just from Star Wars, but beyond. We have so much to talk about. He's done so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Derek Lyons. Derek, thank you for joining us.
Lovely to talk to you, Joseph. Obviously, I spoke to you pre this recording, and it is a pleasure. And I made my jokes about my agent. As you know, there he is. He's my agent for this year, Mr. Father Christmas, Santa Claus. He's lovely.
Visiting for the holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays, as they said in America.
Yeah, same to you, and it's a pleasure to have you.
I do actually love you. I do love American people. I may be a bit negative about. I won't go into politics now, but I do love individual Americans. My sister is an American citizen. She lives in New York. And my half sister, she lives in off of Central Park. Yola, her name is. But yeah, but I've been to New York once. I loved New York. It was a very nice place. Lots of nice people there.
And have you had a chance to visit any of the, be a part of any of the Comic Cons this way?
No, I haven't been invited yet. I don't know why. I mean, it's a very strange thing because obviously, most of us people, because we're retired now, it's nice to get, your travel and expenses and all that kind of jazz. And most people are okay. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't really happened. I don't know if it's political. I have no idea. But it would be nice to come to, not a large one, but a kind of, because they can be like a meat market. I'd rather go to a very small mainly fan-based event, like in some town or whatever. The big, really large ones, I won't mention names. They're very impersonal, and I like to what's the word for it? Engage with the fans and tell them my stories. I like to involve them because I'm a fan too of Star Wars and many other films. But and I like that because I'm not, as Robert Mitchum once said to me. Believe it or not, he said the whole business, Derek, is smoke and mirrors and full of horse shit. So I always believe it. So I don't take myself seriously. I do joke a lot, and I make jokes of myself. A bit like Roger Moore. He was a Libran too, and he used to be self-deprecating. I'm thinking of another word. No, yeah, deprivating. That's the word. And and I think the way I don't really look at myself as any better than you or anyone else.
It'll be great to have you out here. Hopefully we can eventually get out here. Yeah, that'd be great.
It would be nice. It would be nice to get the gang who you've interviewed this week, the whole lot, connected with your podcast, and say, look, I've got these guys I've interviewed and see what happens.
Absolutely, yes. Now let's rewind to the very beginning. Growing up as a child, what were some of the first films that you remember, first memory of watching movies?
Right, movies-wise. Let me think. I would say the Marx Brothers.
Oh, yes.
Groucho. I love Marx Brothers, W.C. Fields. I like the older films, even in any movie with Cary Grant. I just like the old black and white movies, the golden age of Hollywood, really. James Cagney, George Raft, those kind of movies, like the gangster movies,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the first films I saw James Bond when I was. I saw James Bond when I was about 7. I think it was Goldfinger, and then I saw Majesty's Secret Service. But I saw most of the Bonds. My grandmother used to take my grandmother Nora used to take me to cinema every Saturday, and then she would take me afterwards. I was looking forward to having my fish and chips. I don't know if you know what that is in England. So it was great on Saturday. It was a memory. But no, I love. I've always been a kind of movie buff. I love movies. I love silent movies. Charlie Chaplin and I love all those kind of movies where I like black and white. Really, I'm a big fan. I love Woody Allen. I'm a neurotic. I've got issues, with Woody Allen. But I really love Woody Allen. I love things like Manhattan, and I love the black and white films. I know there's a lot of controversy about him, but I love it. He's one of my favourites of this generation. Yeah, Woody Allen. So yeah, if that answers your question. It's
Yeah, no, absolutely. Was there a
thank you.
particular influence, I guess, that more so than others that really got you to think, you know what, this is something I want to give a go. I want to try this
What
out
what
myself.
what what it was, my father knew a lot of the stuntmen in the film business. So, and my uncle Terry Duggan, not Terry Mountain, Terry Duggan was an actor stuntman. He worked on 2001: A Space Odyssey. He was the one of the apes who gets jumped on by a panther, and yeah, so he that was a kind of connection. My uncle Terry, my godfather too, and then uh, where I lived in Islington, or in near Highgate Cemetery, they used to film at the end of my road because the cemetery was there. So I used to watch. I was only maybe about 4 or 5, because in those days kids used to get run down the street. It wasn't like now when worries about children. But in end of my road, I used to watch it. I thought, what's this about? And then I got interested in. It's been in my DNA, I suppose. I've got my cousin is an Irish tenor called Joseph Locke. He's quite a well-known Irish. He's dead now, but they did a movie with Ned Beatty called "Hear My Song." So that's a connection. And my other great uncle was a Asian and one of the most famous Irish yodelers, believe it or not.
Oh,
So
very
So
nice.
I've all these influences. It's not one specific thing. It's just influenced by different. It was like destiny, I suppose. And then I joined. My father got me into the Film Artists Association in 1975. In fact, and a year later, working, went to university. Well, went to kind of college. And then I was called by Central Casting to work on this film, which then it was called The Star Wars.
Right, and that
So that's
became
the kind
such
of
an
that's the way I got it. It's through stuntmen. It's through my father's, as Nosher and Dinny Powell, Gary Powell, this stunt coordinator. He's a friend of mine and he's still for many years. He's um he's the stunt coordinator on the last Daniel Craig movies. He did all the stunt coordinating. Marvelous chap, he is. Yeah, down to earth geezer, as I say.
And tell us about that experience. Star Wars, your first big project, this was something special, but although at the time it was a small budget, and maybe a lot of people didn't know it was going to be as big as it would become. But what were your
Yeah.
thoughts going into that project?
Well, I was at college in Camden Town, and I got a phone call from the Central Casting. Now, Central Casting is for supporting artists. It's people go into that. I must explain this because people get mixed up with stuff. You're better in America at this, but you know, Roger Moore, Sean Connery, list is endless. They all started at Central Casting and were background supporting artists. I don't like the word extra, and then they became what they became, directors. Everything. So I got in and I got a phone call saying, can you come and have a fitting at Shepperton Studios? I never knew where Shepperton Studios was at the time, even though they were based at Elstree. I went down. I was a bit nervous. Do you have any black shoes, Derek? And I had trainers mainly, like Adidas trainers and stuff. So I went and bought myself a pair of, leather kind of shoes, and slip-on ones. They were very nice. And so I went down and they fitted me in this costume, which was the Rebel Honor Guard stroke medal bearer costume. They took a Polaroid of me, and I thought, well, am I going to get this or not? I don't know. I don't know because no one knew. So I I waited, and about a week or so later, so they want you for this, and can you be available for these 2 weeks plus at Shepperton Studios for this film, the Star Wars? So I ended up going there, and it was actually at the time, it's kind of controversial, but I always like to tell the truth. It was I was at college, and there was a girl called Ingrid, and I told Ingrid, she was like of Polish ancestry, and she said, "Oh, my brother Robert is also going to be on this film with you." I said, "All right." So when I get down on the first day, I met Robert. Um, you know, she told me what he looked like and stuff, and then so Robert and I were on this film called Star Wars. We were the first scenes we were involved with was in the metal bearing scene, and most of us were what they did, they didn't have, I don't think they had cutouts. So what they did is they had, say they had 200 people dressed in different costumes, and they moved them along as they were filming. So they matted it together.
Sure.
So I'm at the front. No, I'm at the back with a few. Nick Joseph, in fact, was next to me at the back on that scene with Robert and several other people. Yeah, and so they didn't know what the hell they were doing. I mean, George Lucas, I love him dearly. I met him on Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade. He remembered me for some reason because I reminded him what I did. He said, "Yeah, he's a very good, great guy." So they didn't know what they were doing, because it was a very low budget. I didn't know any of the cast. I didn't even. I mean, I most probably. No, I didn't know. I didn't know anyone on that. To be honest, yeah. No. And so what they did is they tended to use people in different scenes. So anyway, I can tell you about the metal bearing scene if you want me to. You want to?
Yeah,
Shall I talk to
sure.
you about that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So first of all, myself and a guy called Robert. I can't remember his second name, but I'm going to try and find out what his second name was. We were chosen, and it was actually a assistant director called Terry Madden, still alive, good friend of mine on Facebook still. I've seen him at a few cons. He said, "You." Oh yeah, that was. Sorry, guys. Let's go wind it back a bit. We were on set. We're doing that scene. We went to lunch, but we came back early because I wanted to see this robot, which was R2D2. And me and Robert went up and we looked at it, and then we heard his voice shouting, "All right, you two, don't come on set to another 15 minutes. You're not wanted now, dude." Okay. So as we were walking away, I heard this click on the radio. He said, "Oh, come back over here." And I was like, because I remember being at school, the teacher shouting at me. I was like really nervous. So he said, "Oh, you two, stand up there." So this is where the scene was going to create the scene for the metal bearing scene, right? So they initially placed me in the middle and Robert to the side. So they explained what we're going to do. We're going to go forward with this medal, in fact, like the medal here. Do you see that one there?
Yep.
Yeah. And you're going to go and then go to the right. And it's like a certain amount of steps to do it. So I did it. I've always been pretty good because I did martial arts and, I always know where to put my feet. I had a natural instinct for that. But poor Robert, he told me he did ballet. He had lots of hair. I mean, because don't get it was 70s, everyone had long hair. It was, my hair was fairly decent, I suppose, like a Tom Cruise cut. And he walks. So I do my bit, and he comes, and he basically was like wobbling back and forward like this, not being a linear. Like you're supposed to be like an army person. All that. The marching. The
Right.
caters, say the Marines in America, the caters, and he got it right. He screwed it. So they elbowed him. So what they did then is they looked in the crowd, and they picked Nick Joseph, and so he came up, and I'm in the middle, so Nick's on the we rehearsed it, and Nick was on the side when he coming in, of which I later did, and so we rehearsed it. Then we were going to film it. And then we went to lunch. That's right. When I came back from lunch, now I don't know if this is true or false, but when I came back, I wasn't standing in the middle anymore. Nick was in the middle, and I was on the side, which did me a favor actually, because you see a bit more of me in the scene than him. Not being egotistic about it, but I want to see myself on the screen. I'm a young boy. I was just 17 and a bit. So So we did that scene. I said to Nick, "Look, Nick, they've told me that you've got to go there. Okay. I don't know. I don't know." So that's why I got on with Nick for a while, but not, I mean, I don't know. I won't I won't put him down too much, but he's sending me nuts, to be honest with you. But anyway, he's an older man now. And so we did that scene, and that was it. During that scene, uh, Carrie Fisher, I mean, she had this beautiful dress on. And as Lucas quite rightly said, in space, in the future, no one wears any underwear. Do you remember that line? Have you heard that before?
No, I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, he said they don't wear bras because, you could literally see a silhouette. It's a bit like Lady Di, that picture of Lady Di, Princess of Wales, when she's got that dress on. You can see right through the camera, the lights behind. And so, oh God, I had a massive crush on her, Um, so one day she's got this, she's wearing, I think, some sandals or something like that. And I noticed because the makeup were around her doing her makeup and, the wardrobe and making sure this is right, the pampering around the main artist, And she kind of goes down and looks, she kind of touches the toe. And I said, I'm really shy. I was very shy then. I said, "Oh, hi." Well, and I didn't know her name. I said, "Oh, can I help you?" She said, "Yeah, I think I got something, my foot." So I went on my knee. It's absolutely 100% true. And I said, "You got a splinter in your foot," because the set was all, it's wood, and it's like, it's all been plastered, and there's wood. A set has many different things, bits of wood and all that stuff. So, and I managed to pull this little teeny thing out of the foot. And she said, "Oh, what's your name?" "Oh, thank you, Derek." And she kissed me on the cheek. And I went red. I was so red. And now I would say I was red as the Imperial Guard. I really went red. I was so embarrassed. But she loved that. And I got on very well with Carrie. I liked her very much. Kenny Baker, lovely. I was friends with him for years. And his son, Kevin. Anthony Daniels, he was a bit, I won't say too much about him. Everyone knows what he's like. But he was all right. And it was Harrison Ford, very quiet. He didn't really, unassuming. Harrison looked as though he didn't want to be there, as far as I'm concerned.
Gotcha.
Mark Hamill was fabulous. He was very, wide-eyed American boy. I didn't realize he was about 8 years older than me. I didn't realize that. And so during this filming, I said to Mark, "Mark," and old Peter was very, yeah, at lunchtime, I just remember this. At lunchtime, I used to go to I think it's called the Bulldog Pub at Shepperton, and I used to have a ploughman's lunch. Now, ploughman's lunch, if you come to England, is basically kind of like a baguette, bread with pickle, onion, cheese. Yeah, that's they call that. That's what they
Okay.
call it. Um, I can't remember what I said. Oh, my mind's gone. But anyway, that so English lunch. And I used to sit with Peter Mayhew, and we used to have a beer and at lunch, most lunchtimes. And I said to Peter one day, I said, "Peter, you've got such large feet." I was just being naive about it. And he said, in his like Bristol accent, he said, "Well, Derek, I have to get 'em made." "All right, okay." And he has to get 'em made. And he told me what he did before. He was a porter in a hospital. Really nice chap. Got on very well with him. So anyway, I think it was either that day or the day after. I said to Mark, "I'm going to bring my camera in." Now I didn't have a proper camera. I didn't have like a Canon, or we didn't have like digital cameras then. Obviously, I had a little Brownie, which is like film. The film was very thin film. I still got the negatives upstairs. So I said to Mark, "Is this go? Because there's a set just around the corner from H stage where we were based, where we had the food and everything. And it's where they filmed Oliver, the movie.
Hmm.
Oliver with Ron
Yeah.
Moody, and people know that. One of my favorite movies. And he's like, "Yeah, Derek, go." So we went around there, and there are photographs out, which is my copyright, where I've got photographs of Mark and me, me and Peter, because Peter joined us. And we had loads of photographs. There's a photograph which Mark took of me on the set. So I had all those photographs to this day. Then we went back on set. We did the filming, and then during the filming, once I finished that scene, Terry Madden said, "Oh, we'll use you for something else." So he took me away and dressed me as a Rebel Honor Guard, which I didn't know the name of that then. So I'm the guy on the left of screen. The other guy on the right is Lorne Peterson, was the model maker for Lucasfilm at the time, Canadian guy, and he's the other Rebel Honor Guards. As the doors open, and then the heroes come through. I'm on the right with the pike, holding this long black stick, and he's on the left. So we filmed that, and then once I filmed that scene, because it was all shot in different angles, obviously POVs, point of view, and all stuff. Then Terry said, "Oh, we're doing another shot now, and it's the one with Alex McCrindle, General Dodona. So they put me at the very front row. So I'm sitting in the front row. There's Alex McCrindle, the guy with the beard, General Dodona, and a lot of the people used for other things, pilots, and you got Garrick Hagan was my friend Garrick, who I got a message from a few days ago. He was meant to be in that scene where they got this Scottish actor who does a dialogue with Mark Hamill about the Death Star, and several other people who went on to even greater things in that area. And then we shot it, and you see me getting up, may the force be with you, and we're going off to our adventures in space to just destroy the Death Star. And Terry Mann picked me up again. He said, "Oh, come with me." So I ended up doing another scene. I said to Terry recently, I said, "Terry, I was all these scenes." He said, "You know why, Derek? Because I liked you."
Right.
Yeah, because I did it. Because I hit my marks. So he took me. There's a guy called Peter Roy, he's a lovely chap. I've been very well recently. And there's a scene with Alex McCrindle, Carrie Fisher, looking at the plan of the death of this like a war room, and there's this sheets of this plastic, the see-through plastic. When you do like any war room, you like you mark this, with the crayon. Or so I'm actually seeing, but back of headshot with this grey boiler suit in the background. I can spot myself. I know it's me, but it's just like for more movement in. So I'm seeing him quite a bit, which is quite funny, really.
That's great. I mean, that it's an
No, I'm seeing.
experience that I'm sorry. Yeah, it's an experience that you certainly won't forget. I mean, it's become a huge piece of the culture, especially here in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
sci-fi world, But as far as the sets go and the costumes, can you tell us a little bit about the costume in detail, what they were like, your particular
Yeah.
kind of
Okay. Well, my one I think was ex-British military costume, because what they did, they had a very low budget, and they mixed and matched stuff together because they didn't have the budget to, make. So they put stuff together. They most probably went to Lawrence Corner, which is a place in those days where you can get lots of military stuff. Military, what they call it now.
sure.
Um, stuff which has not been used anymore. I can't remember the word that they use for it. And so they got it all mixed together, and it's really funny because everyone had to bring their own shoes. In fact, I was just remember there's one shot I've seen of this guy in the, it was on the side when the heroes walk through, and there's a great photograph, and he's wearing a pair of not high heels. In the 70s they had those shoes which were platforms. He's got a pair of
Right.
platforms on, which is totally that thick. But no, the costumes, like my one was particularly, it was a very hot summer in May, I think. It was a very hot summer, and I think when you're younger, you can handle the heat a bit better. But I had my shirt underneath it, my underpants, my pants, but it was a kind of itchy material. I don't really like wool that much. I like mohair, but it was, it can be very extremely itchy. But I wore that. Yeah, it was. I had one costume which we used doubled for both the characters. The only difference me wearing the helmet um, as the rebel and a guard. But it was comfortable. I can't complain really. Yeah, it was hot though.
As far as you know, were they salvaged after the fact? Were they discarded or
Uh, I think a lot of them went back to. I think it could be Berman's and Nathan's in Camden Town, because I used to go there quite a lot. I think they were put back there. Now a lot of them are going on. I think my costume, which was my costume, because I was 32 waist, 32 chest, 5'11" and a bit, much slimmer uh, then than now. As we get older, we get fatter, don't we? And the yeah, mine was. I know a guy in is it Spain? He bought my costume. I know it was mine immediately. He showed me pictures of it. I don't think it had my name in it, but I knew by the size it was mine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
but yeah, they went on to collectors, and it goes on and on and on. I mean, there are two medals, for example, which Jason Joyner, the promoter at Showmasters, nice friend of mine, he bought he actually bought those two. He has the original medals, of which Master Replicas asked him a few years ago if they could take one and mold it, get a mold from it to make. And I actually had one. My ex-wife, she bought me one. It was almost $600 because it was actually gold plated. Like
Oh,
a gold, 22 karat gold. But I sadly, financial, I just said it a few years ago, but that's the way it is. But yeah, but I think a lot of it went to just, went back and was recycled onto other movies. I don't know.
and were
Because
you a part
it
of?
wasn't important. And those, they didn't, with hindsight, they could have said, oh God, let's put this in a special container and we can do this and do that. I don't know. I don't think they were bothered.
And that's the normal thing. I mean, during the filming of all films, back then you would just discard it afterwards, and it is what it is. But yes, exactly. Hindsight, looking back now, oh, if I
Yeah.
just kept that, they've become collector's pieces, like you said.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. I've seen, some great people out there, and they have really beautiful collections. And I sell my medal, which I get made. I used to have a website. I got rid of that. I can't be bothered with it. But I'd sell my medal and with extra. I always give extra stuff. If I sell my medal, I always give about 4 signed pictures or 5, depending. And I always make it special. If there's birthday, I give them a Star Wars birthday card or with it. So I make it, not just for the money, but I make it special for each person.
Personal experience, which is
Yeah,
nice.
exactly.
Now, when it comes to the premiere of the film, were you there for that? Was there one for?
No, no, not really, because I then went into the music business. I worked for, I was a messenger, office boy for Record Mirror and Sounds through the punk period. So from late 76, 77, 78, I was around all the punks, the Pistols, the Stranglers, I got to know all those kind of people. So it was not, and I used to take photographs in of them. Lots were published. So I was trying to think what I'm going to do, and no, I didn't go to the premiere. I think some people were invited, but I think it's because if I in fact, I did go to the premiere or the crew premiere. I keep kicking that. Sorry if it was. I went to the crew premiere of Empire Strikes Back,
Oh yes.
and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill were in the audience. They were in front of me. I didn't know that.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
arrived there. I'm sitting there, and then at the end, when it's a great movie, The Empire Strikes Back. As the lights went up, they turned around, and all the kids were going, you know. And I spoke to Carrie and Mark, and they signed and programmed for me. Yeah, and it was great. That's the only one I went to. To be honest with you, I could have pushed it up for other ones, but I did
And what-
visit Mark Hamill's. When he was doing Empire, he was either that or Jedi, and I was working. I left that music business and I went to work in a record shop in Carnaby Street and the King's Road. And someone told me, "Oh, Mark Hamill is living up the road in Glebe Place." So I went one day and knocked on the door, and his wife, who he married, he's still married to, she was a dentist assistant because what happened? He had a car crash.
oh, and
Might happen. Well, in the film, I think after Star Wars, when he went back, they had to make it though had an accident, but they had to rebuild his nose and his face and his teeth. So
wow,
he met his wife, who was a dental assistant, during filming, just after Star Wars. It was what's it? So it was Empire, yeah. During Empire, yeah. He had. Oh yeah, you really look it up. He had a terrible accident. Poor Mark.
wow.
But yeah, it was. And so I went and I said to his wife, say to Mark, I've always wanted to see him, see how he is, but I've never really had been able to kind of connect with him, sadly. But it'd be nice to see him.
Yeah. And being a part of that film, obviously you said you went on to music at that time. Right after that, what
Yeah.
happened when it became such a giant film? What were your initial thoughts when you said, "Wow, that really became something I didn't expect"?
Well, basically, when I die, my gravestone will say, Derek Lyons, the man who worked on Star Wars.
Right.
Oh, but it's when I worked in the music papers, I used to go to get copying this kind of stuff. It's not wasn't digital then, and you get for advertisements and all that stuff. So I used to go to CBS Records quite a lot in Soho Square, and Jonathan Morris and Simon Frogsham, they were the main guys in the PR department there. I mean, they looked after Michael Jackson, everyone, you know. And I used to go in there because I used to carry the pictures of him and show them. And every time I walked in, he's Derek, Star Wars boy. There he is. You know, so everywhere it's kind of followed me, and I've always, said, "What do you? Oh, what you want with Star Wars?" So all my life has been interconnected with Star Wars in some capacity or other. So I'm very very grateful for that. It's the first film I ever did. You know, I was at least just 17 and a bit in those days. You know.
Right. And I
But
guess
yeah,
it's
it has
something
followed me
to
all my life, and it's given me. I've been to Japan. I've been to most of Europe. Not America yet. Come on, America. Um, so yeah, I've been to. I mean, I've made, you know, considerable amount of money to a degree, but it doesn't go anywhere. And there's, money just goes, flies.
right.
But yeah, yeah, it's always been connected with me during my life, and I've met some wonderful people, connected fans, some promoters, other actors who I became friends with. I did a movie a few years ago, a documentary called Elstree 1976. Have you seen that? Have you
Yes,
seen that
came out in
film?
2015, and I just bought it on Blu-ray and watched it. It was great.
Yeah, yeah, and you look at look at the extras because I've got more on the extras on it.
Oh, I haven't watched the extras yet.
When you see the film, when you see the extras, there's more footage of
Oh,
me and John Chapman, my friend John, who was also was hired it. He's seen in that photograph. Oh, by the way, that photograph what they took when they took me off set. There's a photograph looking at the war room from General Dodona's point of view. And because they pulled me off, they put another person in my place. So that photograph, which I missed, they have a really elderly gentleman is sitting in the seat I was in for that shot. But there we go. That's what happens. What was my point? What was the question? Sorry, I'm gone off track a bit.
oh, well, we were just covering, music and then, Star Wars becoming as big as it did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I say it's followed me all my life. I'm sorry, I kind of go off in one. Maybe got
Oh, that's fine,
ADHD. I
yeah.
don't know what I've got. Whatever. But I kind of wander. I've got so much in my brain. I can,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's the thing, you've experienced so much, and, fast forward to present day, do you still have a passion for music?
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, I mean, I was very close friends with Marvin Gaye, the singer. I met him. I met him by chance when I was working in the record shop in Carnaby Street, and I was with him from 1980 to 80, late '83, before he went to America and sadly got shot by his father.
Right.
And I still dream about him. We were very, very close, and I still love music. I love the Beatles, the Who. George Harrison, one of my favorite Beatles. And I worked with George a few times on his movies, and I spoke to him many times. I worked on that one with Madonna's Shanghai Surprise, and with Madonna and Sean Penn, and I spoke to George on that and his wife and Olivia and Danny, who's now a big boy now. But yeah, I kind of always loved music. Always been connected with music in some capacity or other. I sing a bit. I trained as a singer with a woman called Jean Marshall at the Trinity College of Music. I can play the guitar a bit, but I'm pretty lazy. That's my trouble. I'm pretty lazy. I'm getting lazy as I get older.
What was Marvin Gaye like to be around?
He was a very, very in Italian you would say simpatico. He's very, very kind and gentle. He I was meant to be involved with a movie a few years ago called Sexual Healing, and it was actually what's his name? Julian Temple asked invited me to dinner, and I had to tell him some stuff which they didn't in all the biographies or anything else. I know more than most about Marvin, and that fell. It just it didn't happen, and he still owes me about 2 grand. There we go.
Oh,
But another story, it happens. Sign a contract. Um, so yeah, Marvin was. It's like when I worked on a film. go straight to his apartment. Well, I've been Park West up in Edgware Road or Hendon where he lived briefly, or um, Rutland Gate in Knightsbridge he lived for a while. But I used to hang out with him, I said, Marvin, why do you like me being around you? He said, Derek, you're a true spirit. You're true. You're kind and true spirit. Well, and because I wasn't after anything from him, and I had all these hangers on black, white, whatever it may be, who were horrible, horrible people. But I ended up staying with him for a week in Belgium. There's a guy called Freddie Cusack, who was a music promoter who brought Muhammad Ali to Belgium, and then Marvin. And then Marvin was great out there because he didn't take any cocaine. He was mainly smoking marijuana. And I used to go running with him. And one day he put the cassette in the car, Mercedes he was driving, and I was singing duets with him. Like
Oh, wow.
I was singing, yeah. And eventually he said to me, he said, Derek, you've got a great voice. I was in a studio at Odyssey Studios in Marble Arch, Brown Street, Odyssey Studios. And he said to me, he said to me just before that, that's right, at his apartment in Knightsbridge, he played his Yamaha organ, and he said, "Can you sing a song?" So I sang "Hey Jude," a Beatles song. So, he goes, "Derek, you got a beautiful ballad voice." He said, "One day, Derek, we do an album together."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it breaks my heart that never happened.
Sure.
And I actually went and trained for 5 years because of Marvin. I have a 2.5 octave range. I did have, and I could have been an opera singer because I had that, because I'm quite a big chest person. I could belt it out at one point. But yeah, so yeah, music. Marvin was fantastic. I won't say anything bad word about him. It's just the people around him. Don't forget, he died on his 45th birthday. He was born on the 2nd of April. He died on basically the 2nd of April. My friend John Everington said to me, because Marvin said, "Can you get my chart done?" So my friend John did a birth chart, and I gave it to Marvin. And John happened to bump into him, synchronistic, bumped into him once in Victoria, in Victoria Station. And then I remember when Marvin died, John Everington, still a good friend of mine, he was very close, by the way. John was a very close friend of Leonard Cohen, one of my heroes too. And he did a death chart, and it was almost as though Marvin was born here and he died here equally to the time he was born. In other words, it's almost like he chose to die that
Wow.
time. It's kind of really bizarre. I do believe in that kind of stuff anyway.
Sure.
But yeah, great guy, great guy. I've been offered a few times to write a book about him, which I will do at some point. And I've got to do my autobiography, which I'm still writing. It's called The Lion's Tale. That's good, wasn't it?
I was just going to ask you, you've done so much and been a part of so much. Will you be coming out with one yourself?
I will do eventually. Yeah, it will happen. I'm too young for it at the moment, but I'm just taking my time, and I'm slightly dyslexic, so I kind of find it difficult to sometimes get it sorted.
Sure. Yeah. Now, being a part of other films, of course, 1980, you were a part of Flash Gordon.
Oh
What
yeah,
was that process like for you?
fantastic. One of the best films I've ever worked on. I got on very well with Ornella Muti, ciao bella, and Max von Sydow, and obviously Sam J. Jones, and I'm in the documentary Life After Flash. If you check that out, I'm in that. But it was Dino De Laurentiis, and I think that a lot of the production, being an Italian, hey, mafioso, I think it was a lot of Italian money, mafia money, to be honest with you, because they were spending fortunes. I was on it for 8 weeks. I was on a lot of money, really. I mean, really unbelievable amount of money. We were based at Shepperton, and I was 3 different characters: Oborian, a Ming Man, and Aquarian. Yeah. I'm seeing in different scenes in it, different characters. But it was a wonderful film. And I got to know Ornella Muti very well. And I used to go, she said, Daddy, can you go to my room? And I want you to ring with my makeup artist, ring this, because you understand Portuguese and Italian. Yeah. So I had to do things for her, which I did. In fact, the last day of her shoot, she came up to me, and I was like, I had this silver underpants on, pants, briefs
Yeah.
on, with this plastic thing, see through, and this big bubble head thing, which I took it off at that point, and it's very revealing for a man. And the girls look good, but the guys, See, one day, and I suddenly tapped on my shoulder. I looked up. There's Ornella, out of costume and wearing very stylish Italian people. She had this like jumper, tied there with the hair was immaculate, dressed in these beautiful blue slacks, and I mean, really beautiful, horny lady, I must admit. But when you say that word, but yeah, and I got on with her. And I actually contacted her before my wife left me in 2007 for another man. I contacted her in Italy, in Rome, for her agent. It could have been her daughter, I'm not sure. And Ornella sent me a signed picture and said, "Oh, Derek, hopefully," and a letter by email saying, "Oh, I'd love to see you again next time you're in Rome. Look me up." So I got on very well with her. Peter Wingard played Clytus in it. He was a character. I met him several years later at a convention, and I reminded him what I did on it. And yeah, he was a very flirtatious gay man, but he was lovely. I loved him dearly. But yeah, great movie to work on. Yeah, Flash Gordon.
In 1983, you would go on to Krull, which a lot of the Star Wars actors, or a few of the Star Wars actors, would appear in. Any memories of that?
Well, yeah, Crow was a great movie. A lot of stuntmen were in the Dark Slayer, the Dark Slayer's costumes, but they needed two people of a different kind of build to be a White Slayer. There was only two White Slayers. Now, I was one White Slayer, and the other White Slayer was a guy called Dominic Wymark. Dominic Wymark lives in America now. His father was a very good British actor called Patrick Wymark, who worked on a movie called Where Eagles Dare with Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood, and also I'll call him my dad, Terry Mountain. And so yeah, so yeah, that was Patrick Wymark. So me and Dominic were the two White Slayers, and our involvement was with this tiger. And what they did is they built this set where they let us on the set, and had a camera kind of hidden, but so yeah, it's like a kind of circular thing. And they let us in one end, and when they let us in, we couldn't get out. We were at least 10 feet from the ground or more, and they had this real tiger from David Chipperfield or Billy Smart Circus, I'm not sure. And they didn't feed it for a few days. And what they did, they had this slayer, just a model of a slayer, and they put like red meat inside the inside where the head is. You see the costume,
Sure.
and so we're behind this glass perspex thing. That's it. That's like before it was perspex. And they let the tiger out. Now the tiger, not being stupid, and they're very powerful creatures. Their paws are like double the size of my hand.
Right.
Rather than going for the figure, which is the same height as me, it ran straight towards us. Now, there's no way out. You couldn't get down the stairs because we've got this costume which weighs about 200 or 300 pounds. I mean, you can only walk like this. It
Oh
was
my.
so heavy. And we were really, crapping ourselves, really. It was like that scary. And we did a 2 or 3 takes like that. But the tiger's still running, and they had these guys called chippies who put wedges on this area, which basically was a way of they could take the perspex out, put it back, and put some wood. I think like this, something like this. This is like something like this, like that,
Oh yeah.
and they would wedge it. That's for kind of the sofa. They
Okay.
wedge it, but as the tiger went forward, its claw managed to get around the perspex, and I tell you, we were boom, 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 boom.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that was done, and we eventually got through it. And so I went up to Nostra Powell, one of the stuntmen. Is it Nostra Denny? No, Denny it was. I said, Denny, look, because they've been paid stunt money, which is about £300 a day plus whatever they do. Now I was on a minimum of, like, I suppose, because we got money for the wearing the costume and all this kind of stuff. I was on about £80 in those days. Got a lot of money, £80, like $180 or $60, plus overtime, etc., etc. So I said, look, to this first assistant, I think it was Andy Armstrong. I said, look, I've got or was it maybe Andy? I'm not sure. I said, this is stunt money, for God's sake. Even the stuntmen told me that. So because they saw what happened, they knew, uh, so I had to go to the producer, me and Dominic. Now Dominic is with us, but I could always, I could always talk. I was a bit shy, but I did talk. I said, look, you got to pay us more money. He says, I spoke to Stuntman. I won't say who it is, but you got to give us at least like 300 quid for this, the whole thing. Anyway,
Right.
we managed to get a bit, not £300, which is $600 plus. We managed to get another £150 on top, which is we were happy with. I got about $200 for that. So yeah, we worked on it quite a long. Ken Marshall, was it Ken Marshall was the lead actor on it? You had Freddie Jones, his son's an actor now, Toby Jones. I used to drink with him at lunchtime at the Pinewood bar, and there were a lot of really great actors. Uh, it was Robbie Coltrane and the Irish actor. God, oh, what's his name? Oh, I know his name. And I met him a few times afterwards. Taken, the guy in Taken, Irish guy.
Oh, Liam Neeson?
Yeah, Liam. Sorry, I can't remember everyone, but Liam, yeah, he was on it, and quite a few other actors who went on to bigger things were on it. I didn't really talk to them because, as far as I'm the same as them. We just want to talk to me. Talk to me. If you don't want to talk, I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, so quite a lot of people were on that. I mean, it was a great. It was great. I mean, it's got kind of cult status now, and there are figures made of me and other such things. But it'd be great to do an event with Kroll, at one point.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think that's been done, right?
No, not yet. Well, actually, the director was the same guy who directed Bullet, which was God, I can't, names are going out my head. What was his name? The same director as Bullet. I can't remember now. It comes to me in a minute. But yeah, he directed it, and it was a great movie to work. One day they said they put me in another costume because I was so good at the other thing, and I had to hold one of the horses. A scene where they will get killed by the slayers. And I'm holding this horse. I'm not a really good horseman. I'm not a very good. Well, I like animals, but I'm holding this horse, and the bloody horse stepped on my foot, and it
Oh,
was, that is painful. That is bloody painful. Excuse my language. Yeah. Peter Yates. Peter Yates was the guy who directed it.
okay.
Now he worked with Steve McQueen, my hero. And he's directing us. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, it was
for
great.
fans that aren't aware, kind of walk us through the auditioning process. Now, obviously, it can change from film to film, project to project, but
Yeah,
for
yeah.
your personal experiences, what has that been
Well,
like?
sometimes I was very lucky that I got calls from the assistant directors, and sometimes straight from the casting directors, because word gets around. Like one assistant director called Terry Bamber, I did a lecture with Michael Stevenson and Vic Armstrong, stuntman, over a week at Pinewood, talking to up and coming assistant directors about the business and et cetera, et cetera. But the letter which I got from Terry said, Derek always hit his marks, was on time, always hit his marks, and delivered. So, because when you get that, you basically get called up direct. So a lot of the stuff I got called directly, and I didn't have to use central casting too much. But I did audition for a film called the Dave Bowie film, Catherine Deneuve, The Hunger. I auditioned for The Hunger with was it Ridley Scott? I suppose was it Tony Scott or Ridley Scott who directed it? I can't remember. And I got it. Basically, I'm dancing and singing. That's all. But yeah, some auditions you get, and some auditions you don't. But no, I've never had a problem with auditions. Yeah. But generally speaking, I was picked. It's like when I worked on Victor Victoria. I was in the gay club scene next to Julie Andrews and the late James Garner. I got on very well with Julie, and yeah, a really lovely lady. Um, and the first assistant on it called me up one day because I finished the stuff I did. I was, Derek, we want you a little kind of part as the photographer's assistant. Now it was a scene involving John Rhys Davies, who plays Salah on
Oh, yeah.
Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade. Him, Robert Preston, who I spoke to on the film, and obviously Julie. And I'm actually in the scene. They've got the old kind of old-fashioned cameras, and I'm just basically doing some bits and pieces around it. It's kind of feature. I didn't speak at all, but I was chosen for that, so that was really nice. And it's like John Rhys Davies. I worked with John on Ivanhoe, Indiana Jones, Victor Victoria. He sent me a message once. I've got a video which he sent me, and so for a friend who was an actor who went out, and he said, "How are you, Derek?" And so I like them, the people like that, because they're just down to earth. But yeah, audition wise, I didn't really. I've done a few. I can't remember what I auditioned for, and what I didn't get. It's so long time ago. I remember just working. The only reason I was in the business is to work, and I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to be like, imagine being Tom Cruise or someone like that. And every time or Johnny Depp even, I prefer, you know, uh, at a restaurant, and suddenly you got the paparazzi, and they want to know about what cereal you eat and what you. I didn't want that. I never wanted that. That's why I never really stepped across the threshold of becoming a star. When I did the TV show called The Bill as PC Craig Lovell for 5 years, that's when I had my opportunity of really becoming a well-known person, which I did to a degree. But sadly, I lost my house at the time, and everything went crazy. I've just got married, and this is just life. It changes everything.
Sure. 1987 to 1991 was the bill. First getting that gig, what was that like for you? That
Oh,
initially.
I still dream about it today as though it's still working. It was in the 80s to 91. It was great. It was like a team effort. Everyone was, all the supporting artists, walk-ons they were called, and I got like a contract as a part towards before I left, sadly, and as PC Craig Lovell. Uh, it was just a camaraderie. It was good, but then when I left it, it went downhill because it was trying to be too American, kind of not Hill Street Blues, but he was going down that kind of way where it wasn't really like British as it was before. I
Sure.
still got friends like Mark Wingett and John Altman and a few other, not John, Mark Wingett, I worked with on Quadrophenia, and several others I remember. Yeah, who I see occasionally. Yeah. But yeah, I
Now,
did loads of that. I did The Shining. I worked on The Shining. I worked on, I did in '78. I did. Sorry, 70. Yeah, '78. I did 77, 78. Get mixed up years. Three film. Yeah, three. Yeah, that's right. It's just Star Wars in '77. In '78, I did three movies. Right, I did Watcher in the Woods, which is quite a cult following now, Disney. And I'm seen in that. I'm in a scene with when they're doing this racetrack thing. Then I did The Shining, and then I did Quadrophenia. And after that, then I went into normal work, I think, for a couple of years, and then eventually went back into business again. Yeah.
and some of your friends and fellow actors are a part of Sci-Fi Week here on the All Access podcast. What are
Yeah.
some of your memories of the great Femi Taylor and Anthony Forrest over the
Well,
years?
Anthony, I never met Anthony on the set because he was filming in is it Morocco where they filmed location? Yeah, Morocco, is it? They filmed those scenes, with Kustark. I met Anthony at when we were filming this film called this documentary Elstree 1976. I met him there, and Femi, because her brother Benedict, I worked with Benedict Taylor, her brother, a few times, but I've always gotten very well with Femi. She's the most famous woman after Carrie Fisher on Star Wars. You know that.
Yes,
I mean, she
absolutely.
really, yeah, it really is, and she deserves it. She's just a good, kind person. She sometimes rings me and we have a chat. But Andy Forrester, yeah, I mean, people I'm in contact with. Uh, mention some other names. I can't remember everyone.
Oh, we have uh, Anthony Forrest. We have
Great guy.
Ralph Morse.
Yeah, Ralph is a great guy. He was the one because I spoke to Ralph about this because I love Ralph, and I said, "Oh, you see, you're doing this," and he sent me your details, so that's so I could be on this. So thank you, Ralph.
Yes,
The
Ralph.
checks,
Ralph made it
the
happen.
checks in the post, Ralph.
Of course, Simon J. Williamson.
Yeah, Simon's great. He's a great guy. I've been at a few conventions with him. I wasn't anyway, because he's like a puppeteer as well, isn't he? And a bit like Toby. I love dearly Toby Philpott. He's a marvelous puppeteer and yeah, a juggler and all that kind of We worked together on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh yes,
It was
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
tell you about a quick scene. I was in a scene as a drunk in the bar. We're watching Daffy and Donald Duck, and with this bar scene, and then just behind me is Stubby K, and then when Jessica Rabbit comes and and then oh yeah, and the Bob Hoskins scene. But I'm this. They did uh, the late great what's his name, Jeremy Bullock's brother. Oh God, died recently. He was a producer on it. It comes to me later. Anyway, the director came up for his assistant and said, "Derek, could you do this?" So, all right. So beneath the set was this like long pole with a tray which did that. It moved like that, right? And beneath, and what they would do then is animate the penguins. You know, the penguins go around. They're like waiters,
Yeah.
so they're going around, and the guy operating the actual the penguin, the actual tray thing was Toby.
Oh
Toby's
wow.
beneath me. Toby, you're beneath me. So he's beneath me, and uh, so the director said to me, oh, could you do this?" So what he said is that the tray's gonna come like here, right? You're gonna flip it up in the air with a packet of cigarettes. What you're gonna do is that as it's going in front of you, you're gonna grab it in the air, right? Knock it down, and hopefully, this one of the cigarettes. When you knock something down, sometimes something the cigarette comes out. So and it's absolutely true. There are in the hidden vaults this shot. So I'm like being drunk, a bit O2. I was a bit O2T drunk. I was like, let's go moving around like that, looking at Daffy and Donald Duck, and it comes to raw action, flips it up in the air. I grab it, knock it down, and throw the cigarette in my mouth. Right on one take.
Oh wow.
I said, "Can you do that again?" I've always been pretty good. I've always been pretty good at like if I grab something like that, I can always look. See,
Yeah.
I can see that. I caught that. Well,
Yep.
yeah. I've always been good at grabbing, that way. So, uh, so we did that, and I did it, and then the second take wasn't so good, and I eventually got it a few more times. But when you see the movie, it's not there. They've cut it out.
Oh man, after all that.
Yeah, no, yeah. It was. I should have spoke to Robert Watts. Robert Watts is the one who sadly died recently. He was the producer, and I spoke to Robert about that. There's supposed to be extra footage somewhere on another, maybe when it's the 50th anniversary or something. It never came up. Hopefully,
And what advice do you have for something like that? Showbiz, it happens all the time. You film something and maybe it's taken out, and the disappointment is there, obviously. But,
yeah.
what do you do in a case like that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. There's been so many cases where I've had dialogue. Everyone thinks I'm the modern day Charlie Chaplin. It's funny. And I've had dialogue on things. I've been perfectly fine. I did a scene with Martin Landau, from Space 1999 and North by Northwest. So I've been familiar with him, and his wife was Barbara Bach. Um, and it was a thing called Empire State, And the helicopter lands. We was filming it in the city, and he comes out in the helicopter, comes up to me, and he goes up to me, and we improvise. He said, hello, he goes, oh, hello, Julian. I've heard a lot about you. And I said, hello, Chuck. Would you like to follow me? We're going to look at the plans now. So when I saw I bought the Blu-ray. It's totally cut. But I saw when I saw it on TV on Channel 4, it was there. But when I bought the box set, they've cut me out.
Oh,
I don't know
my
why. But it's nothing to do. It's nothing personal. It's just the way it is. Because don't forget, you've got so much time, and a lot of really well-known actors have done stuff and have been totally cut from the movie.
Yeah.
And that's why this uncredited thing goes on. I mean, there's so many people like Bruce Willis and Tom Cruise and Clint Eastwood who have been uncredited on the movie. I've got a lot of uncredited stuff, but it doesn't mean I wasn't in the movie. It doesn't mean I didn't have a part. You know, it's just the way it is. You know.
Yeah. Just happens.
I mean, Alan Ladd had 10 films which were uncredited. Yeah. So, yeah. I say, talking about movies, The Shining was a great example where I had to go for a literary audition. They sent me up to Elstree Studios for this Kubrick. It's just a Stanley Kubrick movie. Okay. 1978, go up there, walk in, go to the wardrobe, and Stanley was very fussy about everything, and he would choose every single person to be in his movie. He's very thorough, or thorough, as you say in America.
Yes.
And I went to costume, and they put me this bellhop costume on me, and they took a Polaroid, and then this Stanley Kubrick assistant that came in, I had a chat with me. Do you think you'd be available for this? Yeah, and it fits you well. Yeah. I said, yeah. And I got on very well with the costume department, and this is a really thing which would be worth a fortune. In one of my pockets of the costume was a Overlook Hotel badge, which was on the costume. I said, "Can I have this?" "Oh yeah, take it." I had it for years, and I put it on one of my army shirts. Sadly, my ex-girlfriend, who we split up, and she gave it to her new boyfriend. Now if I had that original thing for The Shining, it'd be worth a fortune now, But anyway, get back to Stanley Kubrick. I worked as the bellboy, but also I was a because it's wrapping up end of the year. We've got Jack going to have the interview as the caretaker of the Overlook Hotel, etc., etc. And we filmed at Elstree. They built the set, which was like in the interiors there, and the outside of it they're built and it's got tons and tons of salt and stuff, to make it look like winter. I got on very well. Most lunchtimes I would go and have a meal with Scatman Carruthers, who became Hong Kong Phooey. He's Sammy Davis's godfather. Told me stories about Sammy Davis, and he was such a lovely. He's here, Derek. I'll pay for it, Derek. You come meet me tomorrow. Yeah. That's how he spoke. Like a black guy, really lovely guy. Yeah, I'll pay. You know what? Don't push. No, I'll pay for it.
That's great.
Scatman, who was who gets the hatch on the head, doesn't he? Gets chopped. But during that movie, Stanley Kubrick came up to me in the foyer, and I was dressed in my normal clothes, because I wasn't because it was hotel staff. We were ready to leave. We didn't have to wear we did the scenes with Jack with the costumes on. I mean, you see me as Jack goes towards the office, and I'm basically holding a pair of two suitcases beside this lift, which is not, it's pretend lift, and as you see me in a distant shot. But Stanley said to me, "Excuse me, what's your name, Derek?" He said, "Derek," he said, "Are you a member of Equity?" Now, I should have said yes, which I wasn't at that time, because he said, "Oh no, I can't use it. And we're going to give you some dialogue." Okay. So I knew my friend Kathy Monroe. She's also in Star Wars. She plays Zuckuss, and she's still friends to this day. And then I think Kathy is. He went up to Kathy. "Are you?" "Yes." So he gave her a line when she walks in, and he said, "Hello, Mr. Hollerant, Mr. Hollerans," or something like that. And he said, "Hi." So she had that dialogue. I would have had it, but she had it instead. But I could have lied. It wouldn't have but he was very strict on those things, Stanley.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have known that my Uncle Terry it worked on 2001. It would have broken the ice with him, a little bit more. But the one thing which I got out of it is I became very like good buddies with Jack Nicholson. It's absolutely true. And every day I used to say, Jack, how you going, Jack? He says, hey, Derek, it's okay. And one day he's eating his cheese sandwiches, and I said, "How's the sandwiches?" I was very shy. I said things. He go, "Hey, Derek, I wish they put some effing ham in these cheese sandwiches." And he would do some really great wild stuff off set. He would hit the overlook uh, uh, reservation area and knock it, and he said, "Kubrick, I'm getting pretty horny here. I won't say the word Shelly in a minute." Boop, boop, Shelly. And then, but anyway, at the last day of shoot, I brought the Shining book and the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest book. I got the Shining book signed by everyone apart from Stanley Kubrick. I had some photographs taken with Jack, that's another story, which come later. And at the end of the shot, it's a wrap. I thought, I'm not going to be able to see Jack then, dude, get this signed. He turns around, he walks straight up to me. I promise you on my children's life. So Jack I'm waiting for him to sign his stuff. So he turns around, comes straight up to me, puts his arm around me, takes me upstairs to the dressing room, puts the key in the door, opens, a bit like the room 237. Yeah, 237, that's what I've got here. Go in there. I remember, I've got a visual memory really good. There's a cassette player, the old cassette players, where you push the thing down. On the side, he presses the button, and it's this music starts playing. I said, "What, Jack? What's that?" He said, "Oh, Derek, I just finished a movie called Going South with John Belushi, and that music's by a guy called Ry Cooder, a friend of mine. You know Ry Cooder, don't you?
Yeah,
Ry Cooder, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah." So then he starts taking his clothes off and getting into his normal gear, and I'm sitting at the coffee table. Now, what I did, I brought the two books and a bit of paper for sign from my friend Lucas. And I had this 5 shilling coin, which I was given to it when I was born, actually. But I wanted to give him something, not to get favour, but I'm that kind of person. So I'm sitting opposite Jack Nicholson, all right, and he's sitting there. I'm sitting there, and he goes, "Oh, Derek, what is it?" And he just signed one book, to Derek, regards. Good wishes and regards, warmest regards, Jack Nicholson. He signed the 2 books. He signed another bit of paper for me. He signed one for my friend. I said, "Jack, I've got something for you." He said, "Yeah, really? Really, Derek?" I said, "Yeah." So I got this coin out of it. It was actually in a special plastic container. I said, "I'd like you to have this, Jack." He said, "What's this?" I said, "Well, it was given to me when I was born in 1958. But I think you're marvelous, and you've told me stories about what you did at MGM and where you worked, what you did, and you've been very good to me on this. I'm quite a shy person, really. So I gave him this coin. He looked at me. He went, "Derek, are you sure about that, Derek?" I said, "Yeah." We said, "Derek, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever given me." And with that, I promise you, he had a little tear in his eye. And I promise you, he got a little tear because Jack, he's been through a lot in his life. His father was alcoholic. He's brought up by his sister. He's been through. I read everything about him. He's been through a lot. And he did have a little tear. And I'm not making it up. So eventually, I left, walked out the door, and then when I worked on any movie after that, I always got one of the background support. And I said, "Derek, we hear that you went to Jack Nicholson's dressing room," and in those days, everyone thought, "Oh, you must be gay, or there must be something going on." But no, absolutely not. And because I was kind of pretty in those days, in some ways, and I did get propositions by a lot of producers and directors who happen to be homosexual. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care, but I'm not that way inclined. So. Yeah, so I got on well with Jack. And my friend Dave Whiting, who I'm still friends with today, he's 80 now. I bumped into him in the West End once in Patisserie Valley, which is a coffee shop, very famous at one point. And he had this costume with him. He said, "Oh, Derek, can I have a chat with you? Because I know that you got on well with Jack. I'm about to meet him. This is his costume for Batman. The Joker." I
Oh,
actually saw the Joker costume and
Wow.
touched it, the boots and everything, before even Jack wore it, because they fitted him. And I said to Dave, I said, well, he's like this and like that. I remember it's quite a few years ago. Anyway, him and Jack clicked. And Jack eventually invited him he stayed in America in his LA house, and that kind of, cocaine lifestyle. In fact, Dave said to me, he's a real Cockney guy, but he's very artistic. He was involved with Adam the Ant, and he did the costume for Adam the Ant, and if you know who that is. And he actually, what did he say? He said, Derek, one day I was sitting there having a joint with Jack. Let's go, joint with Jack. And guess who walks in? No, Mick Jagger, Joe Pesci, and who's the other one? Joe Pesci and the other Joe Pesci and the other tiny guy who played the Penguin. Oh, what's his name?
Oh,
This small as well, small guy. Oh, Joe Pesci and the other guy. Who was in Was he in Twins with Arnold
Danny DeVito.
Schwarzenegger? Yeah, they all walked in. They're all smoking and then taking the cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Hollywood, baby. But no, so I know diversified, but they may find that interesting. But no, Jack, Dave didn't like the LA lifestyle, and he wanted to come over to do a film called Memphis Belle, which he did with Matthew Modine, who's still his friend to this day. But Jack offered him a part in The Two Jakes, the follow up to Chinatown. See how life is? It's like
Right.
mixed. It's all crisscrossed. Everything's crosses.
Yep.
But I could have gone to LA. Peter Hunt, who's now dead, who directed On Her Majesty's Secret Service, good friend. I worked with him for 9 weeks on Last Days of Pompeii with Laurence Olivier and other such people. And he invited me to go to LA. He sent me a one-way ticket to go and stay with him in Bel Air in his house, and he was going to kind of help my career because he helped George Lazenby's career to a degree, and he screwed it up, sadly, old George. But yeah, I've had so many opportunities to do more, But there we go. Who cares,
You've been a part of so much. And how about memories
Yeah.
of Sir
Mhm.
Anthony Hopkins?
Oh yeah, Anthony Hopkins. I worked with Anthony. I worked with him on. I worked on Ivanhoe first with John Rhys Davies, and then I moved over to the other set, Roosevelt Productions, to a film called The Hunchback of Notre Dame with with Leslie Ann Down playing Esmeralda, and Andy playing Quasimodo. And I went up to him a few times because don't forget, his eye is down there, and you feel sorry. You feel sorry for him. So I started talking to him. Then when I used to go to the West End to this esoteric bookshop which sells things on mysticism and religion and all that stuff. I bumped into him several times, and we used to chat away. And then years later, I went to see him in what's it called? King Lear. I think it was 86. Yeah, I think 86. At the National, and then 3 hours. I mean, it was boring. I liked Shakespeare. It was such a long, boring thing. And I went backstage afterwards, and he came out. He's obviously had a shower. He's rubbing his head. He looked at me. He walked up to me. He said, "I know you, don't I? I know you." And he recognised me from before. So he says, "Dad, can I give you a lift anywhere?" So go down the car park into his. He had a left-hand drive car. He said, "Where do you live?" I said, "Well, I live in Islington." He said, "Well, I live in the King's Road." I said, "That's good. I can get the train from Sloane Square straight to Highbury. It would take less time than going the other way." So I spent about half an hour chatting with him and asking him about what his advice. And he said, "I recommend this book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale." And it's a very Christian view of life. I don't know if you're familiar. And you
No.
do these affirmations like, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. If God before me, who can be against me?" So that helped him a lot. And it helped me to a degree. And so I got Lefty sign my the program, which I have. Well, I haven't seen Anthony since that time, but he's out in America now. I'm just a kind of another page in his lifetime chapter of his life. I doubt if I'm in his autobiography, but you never know, do you?
Hey, you never know.
Lovely down to earth. He's one of those guys on set. If it's raining and he's a star and he's got a supporting artist, he'll get an umbrella and share the umbrella with the other person. where some are too stuck up their own, and I must admit, most of the actors I like Robert Preston, Elizabeth Taylor, Jack. What's his name? Rock Hudson. I said Rock Hudson already. Would be very down to earth, very nice people. You can talk to them. No delusions of grandeur, and that's
Sure.
what I like. And also Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum, when I worked on Reunion at Fairburgh, because I think I looked a bit at the time like Christopher Mitchum, his son. And he would come up to me and say, "Hey, ask my name first. Hey, Derek, you ever tell a story about my friend in Vietnam?" And he went on to this really, really dirty joke. I won't say it on here. If you want me to, I can. And then one day I'm sitting outside the set where Deborah Carr is dancing with Red Buttons and all these other actors. It's about these ex World War One, two pilots and soldiers who came to England and had English girlfriends, got them pregnant, and etc. It's about him meeting his daughter with Deborah Kerr. And I'm sitting with him outside the set, and they're dancing inside, and I'm sitting there with, I think, Roy Beck. He's a lovely guy. He used to stand in for him and other such actors. And sitting beside him, and he said, "Hey, Derek, Roy, see in there? There's enough flatulence in there. If I let them match, the whole goddamn thing will blow up." And I didn't know what the word flatulence meant then. It means farting, and that stuff. But it was very funny, and he was very down to earth. He was always on the supporting artist, small actors side. He didn't like all that other bullshit,
Yeah.
Great guy, great guy.
What are some of your memories of working on the Superman franchise?
Oh yeah, great. Now it's funny. There's only two people in the film business I know I've met, or three. Catherine Zeta-Jones, right? Michael Douglas, obviously, but I didn't meet him. Mark Hamill and Christopher Reeve, all born on the 25th of September, my birthday.
Oh, wow.
All
Okay.
born, not the same year, but the same, yeah. So I spoke to Christopher Reeve, the beautiful Christopher Reeve, because I worked on Superman 2, 3, and 4. And it was a very unassuming guy, really well built. Yeah, and I just chatted about things. He liked the women. He was always chatting the women up on the background of supporting artists. And I said, "Look, by the way, I'm the same star sign." "Oh, really?" "Yeah, no, no." And I knew he had worked at the Royal Festival Hall in the bar. And he said, "Oh, you knew that?" I said, "Yeah, I knew that you worked there." So little chats like that, these little chats like that. But yeah, a really nice guy. I'm seeing quite a lot in Superman 2, and one of the when Zod comes, with the three come with
Yep.
Sarah, what's her name? Sarah Douglas, and the guy who plays Non. Oh God, forgive me. The guy with the beard.
Yeah.
We chat. Yeah, they come on set, and Zod makes the stuntman fall down, and we're shooting the guns, and we have to kneel before Zod. So I'm seeing that scene, and then later on another scene which I filmed with Tina Simmons, who's a lovely girl. She's also in Star Wars, and Tina. Uh, uh, we're in the underground shot where Superman stops the train, which we filmed at Aldwych, and with Margaret Margot
Margaret
Margaret.
Kidder?
Yeah, Margaret Kidder. Sad she's gone. She was lovely. Lovely guy. So I'm in that scene, and I'm in I'm a Russian. So I'm seen in a few of the films in little bits and pieces, But yeah, and also there's one particular scene where they cut on the last one they filmed, and I'm actually dancing next to Christopher Reeve. We filmed it in the West End. It was me. There's Christopher Reeve with Meryl Hemingway. Was it? Yeah, dancing, and there's me dancing with some other woman. I've got a white tuxedo on, dancing right beside Christopher Reeve. But they
Wow.
cut it from the film. But you can see the stills which they shot.
What a
But no,
memory.
he was a lovely guy, very shy. He because Dave Prowse, who used to live down the road from me, he's a nice guy, Dave. He was the bodybuilding instructor for a while to help Christopher train.
Oh, okay.
But then he got sadly chucked off for some reason. I won't go into the details, but he got
Yeah.
thrown off sadly because of something he said. That's why you've got to be so careful. When you work on movies, you've got to keep everything private. You can't start saying that you can't stop because you get a bad reputation.
Right. You've been a part of so many great projects over the years. If you could pick one, it may be tough, but if you could pick one, what was your number one favorite project that you've been a part of thus far?
I don't know. I did Lords of Discipline. That was very good with Bill Paxton because I knew I was very good friends with Bill Paxton. Sadly, he's gone. I spoke to him up to about a week before he died. Sadly, the heart problem. But I'm just thinking, Lords of Discipline, Flash Gordon. Okay, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Ah, okay. And what
Because that
stands
was
out for
great.
you?
Pardon?
What stands out for that,
Well, I
franchise?
tell you what, I auditioned for Raiders. I got a part in Raiders at the end sequence when they all get blown up with the Ark of the Covenant. But I sadly booked my holiday in Portugal, and I couldn't. Well, I said I can't. They picked me, but I said, "No, I can't do it now because I'm away. I booked my ticket." But
Right.
several of my friends, Alan Austin and John Mogridge, I don't know if you're having on this, no, you're not. Shame you didn't get John. Um, and they're in that scene. They get blown to pieces and stuff. But then 2 films later, Lee Cleary, who's the first assistant now in Canada, who does all the X-Men movies, lovely guy. He gave me a call, and because they like people they can trust, so I was one of the 3 Nazi soldiers around the Ark of the Covenant thing.
Yeah.
There's a few others there. There was a few others stuntmen because the whole thing falls to pieces. But I think it was that one because I ended up seeing Steven Spielberg, speaking to Steven Spielberg, meeting George Lucas again, and I chatted with. I've got a book here signed by George Lucas, Spielberg, Harrison Ford, John Rhys Davis, Daniel Elliott. It'd be worth a lot of money one day.
I think so.
But yeah, and Sean Connery. It's all very personalised. But that was great. And then Michael Jackson came on set. I've got to tell you a funny story about Michael.
Yeah.
I was going to see Michael. I knew CBS Records very well, so I had VIP tickets for the gig at Wembley a few weeks later. And he came on set with Jordan, little boy, say no more. And he had 2 big black guys, bodyguards, and he comes up the stairs because we're on the rostrum. So basically, the thing, falls to pieces where to go to grab the chalice, it goes down. But we had to walk up several, stairs to get to this thing, top of this set. And so he walks in. Michael walks on set with his, the way he's dressed is the Bregaly, well, Sergeant Pepper kind of clothes, And he walks up and he comes up to everyone. Now I'm standing right beside Sean, and I spoke to Sean a few times because I said I work with Jason, your son. And Sean said, "Oh, yeah. What was Jason like? Was he okay?" I said, "Yeah, he wasn't stuck up, was he?" I know he was really good. He was on Lords of Discipline, He was all right. I got on well with Sean Connery. He's there beside me, and then Michael Jackson comes up the stairs, and he goes up to everyone, and he goes, "Hi, Michael." Shakes a hand. Michael. So he came up to me, shook my hand. "Hi, Michael." I said, "Nice to meet you, Michael." He goes up to, then he goes to Sean Connery. He said, "Hi, Michael." Then Sean says, "I'm sure you are," and then walks away. He puts his
Oh,
hand in, "I'm sure you are," and walks away from him, totally blanks him.
wow.
Absolutely blanks Michael Jackson, yeah. Well, who knows why he did that. But Sean he never suffered fools, He knew a lot about lots of things, been a milkman, bricklayer, bodybuilder, he did everything. And yeah, I like Sean. I always liked Sean Connery.
Yeah.
But he knew exactly what he wanted, and he wouldn't take shit from anyone. Sorry, I should say that word,
Oh, that's
crap from
okay.
anyone. Yes, yes, all right. We swear. I should be like from the Bronx where we talk alike. I don't fucking shit,
Right.
motherfucker.
And what's next for Derek Lyons? I mean, looking into the future, What are you excited about? Anything coming up that you're aware of, or any goals that you
Well,
have?
not really. At the moment, I've got a health issue. I caught Lyme disease a few years ago in Sweden. I got bitten by a tick. I don't have them in America.
Yeah,
So I got bitten by it. Gave me. I've been bitten before, but no problem. I got Lyme disease, which then affects my joints. And I'm I'm a martial artist. I can do the splits. I can most do the splits still, but I can't do it anymore. And my foot. The year that was in 2023. In the following year, I was admitted to hospital because my foot started swelling up, and I had to go to A&E. And then the hospital just kept me for 6 days, antibiotics, drips, you name it. I could have lost my foot. And so it's taken me almost a year to kind of walk a bit better than I did before. But I've been seeing the specialists, and they can't really operate on my foot because it could make it worse. So I'm in good hands. But the orthopedic guy said, I need to. They could put like special pins and reshape my foot. But I'm 67 now. I'm still here. Touch wood. And well, what is it? Yeah. And what can I say? I'm lucky to be alive still. There's people far worse in the world than me. But yeah, but as you were saying, you're talking about well, I was meaning next year or this year. In fact, I was going to go back into the business. I've got an agent ready to take me on. For any part work on a TV show, or do a few lines here and there, or film, because I'm capable of doing that. But because I've had the experience. A camera in front of me is no issue.
yeah,
Um, uh, Dialogue. Well, a few years ago, when I did the bill and I did dialogue, I was a bit nervous. I was too, and it wasn't because of me. It's because of my other fellow actors who were looking at me and think, "Oh God, lucky Derek is in this," and there's a jealousy involved, and I couldn't close it off, so it
sure.
made me a bit more aware of what I'm doing. But now I couldn't give a toss. I just do what I want to do. But yeah, I hope to go and do something in the future. Doing like once I get my health a bit better next year, hopefully 2026. It's just another day at the office. Hopefully, I'll get something. I don't know. I mean, um, I would try, because I knew Barbara Broccoli very well from the Bond. I wanted to get when Daniel Craig got the Bond. I was in contact with her at the time, and I didn't really. I was going through a lot of depression because my wife left me, and my children and stuff, and I I I wasn't in the right state of mind, as it were, to take on a role. But I'm open. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, it's no problem. As long as I keep my health, I'm still on this beautiful Mother Earth, and I can speak to my friends and speak to lovely people like you. I'm quite happy to just go with the flow. Be honest with you.
Absolutely. Another project you were a part of, The Living Daylights. Any memories of that?
Well, yeah. I did 4 Bond movies. I got picked. It was Barbara who chose me, and I was meant to be one of the MI6 agents who basically grab. We come up the stairs. I was with my other friend, Ray Seven, and the late Paul Robert Grayson. And we come up the stairs. We put this gear on for his jump jet shot, and then I take him up the stairs, up the top to the jump jet, and it was like a part. It was a great little part, and I did it, several times. I remember Desmond Llewellyn, and you hear me saying, "Come on, boys," and I say something. You can hear me briefly saying something, and so that was kind of good experience. I never saw Timothy Dalton on that, but I didn't see him on Flash because he was on Flash Gordon as well with Brian Blessed and the rest of them. That was great to work on. I worked also on A View to a Kill. I worked with the stunt team, and I do a kind of slight fall on my back into the water on a dead body in Zoran's tank where Christopher Walken's shooting everyone, and I fall. Just it's not very high, and I'm dead. And get hundreds of gallons of water coming on top of me. I got on very well with Grace Jones. We did some shots at Ascot, I think it was, or Kempton Park Racecourse. And I happened to talk to Grace Jones, and she invited me into her caravan
Yeah.
and to sign one of her albums. I've got it here somewhere, portfolio on the wall there. Um, but I got on very well with her, and she was going out with Dolph Lundgren then. He had dark hair then. He had a little part in it, and I sat for a half an hour talking to her about music with her. I said, I told her about Marvin Gaye. She said, "Oh, Derek, I can't do her accent, Jamaican." She says, "Well, I actually gave him his Grammy for Sexual Healing." I said, "Oh yeah, I wasn't aware of that." But she was great. So that's that one, and I did what's the other one? Octopussy,
Oh
and
yes.
that was a lot of fun to work on. I was an American Air Force space officer, and it's basically when Roger Moore is dismantling this bomb. In fact, the late Richard LeParmentier and Bruce Bower, they're the colonel of the American Air Force there, and then Roger Moore's dressed as a clown, and he's doing this, and I'm holding the people back. So you've seen, let's be seen in that little bit. I remember off set, I got involved with a girl called Julie Clifford. She's still around. She may see this later. Um, and her father was John Clifford, who was a marvelous stand-in stroke. He'd been in every TV show, every film you imagine. A brilliant guy. And I was snogging her, kissing her, no tongues were involved. And well, yeah, again, I'm kissing her, and suddenly I heard this noise. It's going, and I heard this voice saying, "Naughty boy." It was Roger Moore. He walked past, naughty boy, and he winked at me, and he like smiled with tongue in cheek thing, because he saw what I was doing, and being a Libra, and maybe thought, oh, that was good. But that was great. And then I worked on GoldenEye, because I worked on um uh, the Holcroft Covenant, and I worked on the Pierce Brosnan did that TV show. What's it called? The He did that TV show in America. What was it called now? Not the Ellery Queen. What was it called? He did a TV show in America, and then he couldn't get out of the contract at that time. So I did a few films with him, and we had an idea on the set that he was going to be the next Bond. And when he eventually did, we worked at Leavesden Studios. I went up to Pierce, who was sitting on his director's chair, and I said, "Hi, Pierce." And he remembered me. I said, "I'm sorry about the death of Cassandra, his wife, who was a Bond girl." He said, "That's nice of you, Derek. I appreciate that." And I worked on the Long Good Friday, which he worked on too. So our paths have crossed over the years. And so what was it now? So we had a couple of pictures taken together, off set, and he was a nice guy. He didn't particularly like the director, Martin Campbell, because Martin had a really bad reputation, being quite rude to people.
Ah.
Um, but yeah, working with Pearson, I said to says, "Yeah, oh, it's great that you got this gig now. You're right for it now. Whereas before, I don't think you're a bit more buff than you were then, because he's quite a slim chap. Um, but you look great." And he said, "Oh, he appreciated that. I like Pierce very much."
And you were
It
also
was
a part of
lovely.
2 other projects that basically, are looked at as cult classics with Little Shop of Horrors from
Yeah.
1985, and then, of course, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Any, memories from those 2?
Well, I explained about Roger Rabbit before
Yeah,
as
we
a
talked
drunk,
about
so
that.
that I won't go over that again. But if you don't mind, but I could, if you want me to, but um, Little Shop of Horrors, yeah. In we were, which I think was Shepperton, and I was in quite a few scenes, but there's one particular scene where we're looking at Audrey, the plant, when it's starting to get larger because it's eating human flesh.
Yeah.
And then I think like Toby was in it, and another guys on Facebook now, still friends. David David Brubeck, David Brubeck and Toby. They were all on it, puppeteers on it. But it was just, got on very well with the lead actor. What's his name? Got a couple of names. I can remember some people's names, not everyone. Uh, Comedian. He didn't work for many years because he decided to get out of the business. But he was great. He was the main guy in it. But it was just, we did about a week on it, doing these different shots. And Frank Henson, I think he was the directing it, wasn't he? But yeah, it was just a good film. It's just another day at the office, really.
And
Yeah,
fast
nothing.
forward. Oh, sorry. Go
Hmm.
ahead.
That's all. No, nothing to really talk about. I can't really think of any stories. But you see me. There's one shot. You see me looking in the window with at Audrey, and yeah,
An iconic
he,
film, indeed.
he didn't eat me though, did he? What was that?
It's an iconic film, indeed. Though it is.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a soundtrack. When I worked at Planet Hollywood in London, they used to play it all the time. To Be a Dentist and Little Shop of Horrors. That stuff. Yeah, great. It was a great movie. Yeah, great
Yeah.
soundtrack.
And fast forward many years from now, when you're looking back at your career, how do you want to be remembered? What would you like your legacy to be?
That I was a kind, caring, honest, truthful, a beautiful man who did no harm to anyone, who did his best. Uh, and every film I worked on, I did my best because, as a fan myself, I like to see the element, the end product looking really as good as it should look. And that's why I said to the assistant directors a few years ago, when I did that lecture at Pinewood, that it's so important that you look after the crowd, the supporting artists, and treat them with respect. And I've noticed that certain films with certain directors, like Frankenheimer, I worked with John Frankenheimer, who's pretty nasty. And the other one he was okay. Michael Winner. I worked on Death Wish 3. He was all right to me, actually. He was all right to me, but he can be quite rude to people. You usually find people like that, it creates this energy on the set, and the end product doesn't always come out right, you know?
Yeah,
It puts a kind of bad jinx on the movie.
sure.
You've got to work. Mike Lee, I worked with Mike Lee, the English director, a few times, and I knew his wife, Amanda Redman. Is it Amanda Redman? And what he would do is you get on set with him. I think that Ingmar Bergman did the same. He would tell you the story. He would tell you what character you are. And so you're married to her, and you know so and so in the wedding scene through another friend, and so then you had this character of who you are. Woody Allen does the same, Woody Allen, neurotic guy, he does the same. He has a script, he writes it as he goes, but he lets the people improvise around the scene, which I like. I'm good at improvisation. But no, bottom line, what you said, I just want to be known for what I did. And I say on my gravestone, it said, this guy did. No, I've been told this by my friend Spencer Wilding and several other quite well-known actors. He says, Derek, you're a living legend. I could put on the gravestone, Derek, the living legend in his own lunchtime, or Derek Lyons, legend. He works on everything. He's the Z League of the movie industry, or the Where's Wally, something like
Right.
that. Yeah, because I turn up all the time. Sometimes I see things. I see, look, I worked on that. I don't remember doing that, and I'm amazed sometimes. I'm amazed at how I did it. I got away with it. But I did, because I was good at what I did, I suppose.
Right. Well, Derek, thank you so much for participating in Sci-Fi Week and taking part in this interview. It's been my absolute pleasure. You've
Oh,
shared so
thank you
many.
very much, Joseph. Yeah, I've told you as much as I could, and don't edit it out. Just make it a two-part.
Right. No,
One
you've
part. Because it's
had
good
some
because huh?
you've had some wonderful experiences and really,
Yeah, there's so many more stories, so many other stories I could tell you, but that'd have to be in my book, I suppose. But
right.
yeah, lots of. No, Joe, am I still right? You still rolling?
Yes.
This is an add-on. When I worked on The Shining, and I saw The Shining, I was quite disappointed because I was reading the book while working in the movie. And there's that scene where in room 237 where Jack goes in. Oh no, is it Jack goes in? I think it's the room. And there's a scene where this beautiful woman comes out the shower, and she like embraces Jack, and then it becomes an old woman. Yeah, do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when I watched on Supergirl with Helen Slater, Peter O'Toole, Susanna York, Mia Farah. I was one of the Superman people. I feel like I'm David Lynch now. I met David. You're beautiful, Derek. You're beautiful. And that girl, that same girl, and I didn't know it was the same person. We end up in this kind of on the set. We were in this like cocoon things, like cocoon, and we're like with each other, and we're half naked really because we've got these little skimpy numbers on. She did too. And she's gone now, sadly, but we did have a liaison dangerous, I would say.
Oh,
Alive on set. I won't say any more than that. Just have a guess of what happened, but it was a bit naughty, and especially with Peter O'Toole and that down there. We're up there having a bit of a ding dong jiggy jiggy.
wow.
Absolutely true. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you again, Derek. You've done so much, and like you said, I mean, we've only touched on just some of it, but we look forward to the book when it is out, and
The
certainly,
Lion's Tale. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. So for Derek
I say I need
Lyons,
to. Sorry, you go on. Sorry.
well, for Derek Lyons, I'm Joseph Bruen, and this has been the All Access Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave your comments. We'd love to hear your comments about the interview, and really thank everybody for tuning in. So, Derek, any closing words?
Yes. Merry Christmas to one and all, and also don't forget, as Albert Finney once said to me, count your blessings.
Merry Christmas to you as well, and to everybody watching. Thank you so much. Happy
Bless you,
holiday.
man. Thank you very much. Lovely talking to you. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.